Love and Money in Balance: How to Stop Overspending in Relationships. Chapter 1: When Love Becomes Expensive. Every beautiful relationship begins with a light, exhilarating feeling. There is a sense of delightful anticipation, a desire to charm, and a natural, easy impulse toward generosity. It's the spontaneous coffee, the unexpected flowers, the carefully chosen gift that says, "I was thinking of you." These small, early gestures are woven into the very fabric of romance. They feel natural, effortless, and entirely driven by the simple joy of connection. But somewhere along the way, for many of us, the scale begins to tip. That easy, light generosity can subtly transform into a heavy, silent obligation. The genuine desire to give can morph into a need to spend. Suddenly, the joy of a shared moment is overshadowed by the cost of the event, and the gentle art of courtship gives way to a kind of financial performance. This is the moment when love begins to feel expensive. It's an uncomfortable truth to face, but it is one of the most critical steps toward creating a genuinely harmonious relationship. We must gently pull apart the tangled threads of emotional intimacy and monetary value. We have to explore why we started using one to stand in for the other, and how to gently guide our relationships back to a place where love itself, not the expenditure, is the true centerpiece. The silent contract of spending. Many of us grew up watching love expressed through spending. Think about romantic comedies, advertisements, or even the ways our own families celebrated milestones. A beautiful, grand gesture almost always involves a corresponding expense. A fancy dinner, an elaborate vacation, a diamond ring. We absorb this cultural lesson early. Love is proven through expenditure. This sets up a silent, often unspoken contract within our adult relationships. The contract goes something like this: if I spend money on you, it shows I value you. If you accept the spending, it shows you value me. This contract sounds logical on the surface, but it is ultimately imbalanced because it measures the most complex human emotion, love, with the most concrete human tool, money. Love is infinite, nuanced, and freely given. Money is finite, transactional, and must be earned. When you use one to validate the other, you inevitably introduce pressure. Imagine a beautiful, balanced scale. On one side is genuine affection, connection, and presence. On the other side is money. As long as you are giving affection, you feel balanced. But the moment you feel the need to buy affection, you are placing the heavy weight of financial stress onto the scale. The beam tips, and the easy equilibrium is lost. The feeling of generosity is open-ended. The feeling of obligation, which spending often becomes, is a closed loop that leads directly to resentment and anxiety. When spending becomes a substitute for time, one of the most common reasons the scale tips toward overspending is the simple, yet painful reality of a time deficit. In our busy lives, time often feels like the rarest resource. We are working longer hours, juggling more responsibilities, and trying to keep up with the demands of a fast-paced world. When we feel guilty about not having enough time to truly connect with a partner, friend, or child, we often reach for the most readily available substitute. Money. We think, "I don't have time for a thoughtful conversation right now, but I can order that gift they wanted online." Or, "I can't plan a quality date night this week, but I can definitely upgrade our dinner reservation." The purchase becomes a shortcut to emotional connection. It's an attempt to buy back the time we feel we owe, or to neutralize the guilt we carry for being less present. The problem is, this never truly works. A lavish gift, while appreciated, cannot replace an hour of uninterrupted, focused attention. A surprise trip cannot fill the void left by weeks of emotional distance. In fact, these expensive gestures often deepen the problem, creating a new, toxic layer of expectation. Now, not only do you need to find time, but you also need to find the funds to continually prove your affection at a certain, high standard. The first step in restoring balance is to honestly assess where your time and money are truly going. Are you truly out of time? Or are you just reaching for the easy, transactional fix of spending? Recognize that presence is the ultimate luxury. It is the one thing money cannot buy. Shifting your focus from spending more to simply being more present is the most profound and balancing act you can perform for a relationship. The fear of being found lacking. Another powerful, underlying psychological current that drives relational overspending is a deep-seated fear of being found lacking. This often manifests in several ways. The fear of comparison. We look at other couples' social media feeds, their fancy anniversary celebrations, their extravagant trips, and a small voice whispers that our own efforts aren't good enough. We panic and try to keep up, funding a lifestyle that is meant to impress an invisible audience rather than satisfy our actual needs. This comparison is a profound act of self-imbalance. You are abandoning your own true center to chase someone else's external presentation of perfection. The fear of not being enough. This is a more personal and painful fear. It's the worry that, without the backdrop of expensive gifts or impressive dinners, your partner might find you, the real you, less desirable or less worthy of their attention. You use spending as a security blanket, a buffer between your authentic self and your partner's potential judgment. If you find yourself constantly upgrading your plans, always paying the whole bill, or never letting your partner see a moment of financial constraint, you must gently ask yourself, what am I truly afraid of losing? Is it the person, or is it the image of the relationship I am trying to maintain? A truly balanced relationship is one where you feel safe enough to be financially honest and vulnerable. It is where you trust that your worth is rooted in your character, your kindness, and your connection, not your credit limit. To counteract this fear, you need to practice intentional underspending in service of deeper connection. Plan a date that costs $0. Spend an evening discussing your dreams for the future, not your next purchase. See if the quality of the connection shifts. It rarely diminishes. This is how you prove, to yourself and your partner, that the value of your love is inherent. Shifting the currency of love. The solution to stopping overspending in relationships is not to become stingy or cold. It is to make a profound shift in the currency of love. You are not removing generosity. You are simply moving it from the currency of money to the currency of mindfulness and care. This shift requires defining what a truly rich and balanced relationship looks like to you, beyond the material possessions. Instead of an expensive dinner out, the new currency is focused attention. You cook a favorite meal together, put away all devices, and dedicate an hour to discussing a meaningful topic. This costs a fraction of the price, but delivers 100% of the connection you crave. Instead of a big, surprising gift, the new currency is thoughtful service. It is taking on a task your partner usually handles without being asked, simply to ease their burden. It is creating a system for chores or finances that feels fair and equitable to both of you, relieving stress for the long term. This subtle act of fairness and grace strengthens the relationship far more than any impulse purchase. Instead of a frantic, last-minute purchase to make up for a mistake, the new currency is honest, compassionate communication. It is taking the time to apologize fully, to listen without defense, and to work together on a harmonious resolution. The beautifully balanced life is one where you treat your finances and your relationships with the same spirit of equity and respect. You wouldn't drain one partner's emotional energy without replenishing it. Similarly, you shouldn't drain your shared financial energy without a thoughtful, sustainable plan. When you elevate presence, consistency, respect, and fairness above dollars and cents, you do not lose romance. You transform it. You move it from a fragile, transactional state to one of enduring, graceful strength. You create a love that is rich not because of what it costs, but because of how profoundly it nurtures both of you. Your task now is to simply notice where the spending is a substitute for the connection you truly desire. Observe this imbalance not with judgment, but with gentle curiosity. This observation is the first, most elegant step back toward your financial and emotional center. The hum of inner balance is restored when your actions, your giving, your time, and your money reflect your truest, most authentic values. Chapter 2: The Hidden Costs of Proving Affection. When we look at overspending in relationships, it's rarely just about the cost of the item itself. The true expense is almost always emotional. The money is simply the visible tool used to manage a much deeper, hidden landscape of feelings. We reach for our wallets not just to pay for things, but to pay for a sense of comfort, security, or validation that we feel we lack. In this chapter, we are going to shine a gentle, clear light on this dynamic. We need to look honestly at those moments when money is being used to buy peace or to prove love, and understand the silent, heavy toll this transactional approach takes on both our finances and our hearts. This behavior stems from a fundamental imbalance. We are outsourcing our self-worth to our spending power. Instead of trusting that our inherent value is enough, we feel compelled to add an external layer of costly proof. This creates a hidden cost, a debt that is accrued not in dollars, but in the slow erosion of genuine connection and inner security. The burden of proof. Why do we feel this relentless need to prove our affection? For many people, this need is tied to their own internal sense of unworthiness. If you struggle to believe that you are intrinsically valuable, kind, and attractive on your own merits, you may unconsciously use spending as a shield. The gift, the trip, the generous offer, these become your evidence. They are the artifacts you offer up to say, "See, I am worthy of your love because I can afford to give you all this." This creates a terribly skewed perspective. When you attach your ability to be loved to your ability to spend, you are constantly forcing yourself to earn something that should be freely given. This puts an enormous burden of proof on your financial life. Every purchase is not just an exchange of funds. It's a high-stakes performance designed to prevent rejection. The moment you start using money to prove affection, you cease to be truly generous. Generosity is a free, light-hearted act of giving without expectation. Proving affection through money is a transaction that silently demands an emotional return. It might be demanding appreciation, validation, or even a sense of security that the relationship will endure. This demanding energy, though unspoken, is felt by the receiver. They sense that the gift is not purely for their joy, but is also a vessel carrying the giver's anxiety or insecurity. This is the first hidden cost, the loss of lightness and spontaneity in your giving. The gift is now heavy with expectation. Buying peace, not partnership. Another common use of money in relationships is to buy peace. This often happens in situations where there is underlying tension, disagreement, or a pattern of conflict that one partner seeks to quickly and quietly smooth over. Consider a situation where a difficult conversation is avoided by suggesting an impromptu, expensive night out. Or perhaps a partner is upset about a recurring issue, and the response is to purchase a lavish item to distract from or deflect the core problem. The reasoning is, if I introduce something pleasurable and costly, the discomfort will disappear, and we can go back to feeling happy. This temporary fix is incredibly damaging because it trains the relationship to avoid genuine resolution. You are inadvertently creating a system where emotional discomfort is immediately followed by a financial reward. This teaches both partners that the costly distraction is the solution, not the necessary, but often difficult, harmonious negotiation required for true growth. The hidden cost here is the erosion of relational integrity. The relationship becomes a place where real issues are swept under the rug and replaced by receipts. You prevent the difficult but essential work of learning how to talk, how to compromise, and how to truly understand each other's needs. A relationship built on buying peace will always require more money, because the underlying problems are never solved. They simply accumulate interest. The most balanced, elegant solution to conflict is always communication, not a cash payment. True peace in a partnership comes from clarity and mutual respect, not from avoidance through financial distraction. The self-sacrifice of overgiving. It is vital to consider the emotional toll on the giver in this dynamic. When we overspend to prove affection, we are often engaging in an act of self-sacrifice that is ultimately unsustainable and unfair to ourselves. This is the pattern of the person who constantly ensures the partner has the best of everything, while quietly denying themselves necessary things. They might pay for all the trips, the housing, the gifts, but they are secretly carrying financial stress, skipping their own healthcare needs, or sacrificing their savings goals. This creates a massive internal imbalance. On the outside, the relationship looks affluent, generous, and joyful. On the inside, the giver feels tight, anxious, and financially drained. This is the hidden cost of internal resentment. Resentment is one of the most toxic, slow-acting poisons in a relationship. It is the result of consistently giving more than you can comfortably afford, not out of true joy, but out of a desperate need to feel loved or necessary. When the expected emotional return doesn't match the financial outflow, that imbalance curdles into frustration. The truth is, your partner cannot truly feel respected and loved if they knew you were sacrificing your own stability and future happiness to provide for them. A balanced, ethical approach to love requires you to treat yourself with the same fairness and consideration you extend to your partner. Sustainable generosity requires you to first put on your own oxygen mask. When you are financially secure and calm, your giving becomes lighter, purer, and genuinely joyful, and your partner can receive it without the heavy undertone of your unspoken need. The silent toll on the receiver. While the giver accrues emotional debt, the receiver of constant, excessive spending also pays a hidden toll. First, it can induce a feeling of guilt or discomfort. A thoughtful person doesn't want their partner to constantly strain or suffer financially on their behalf. Receiving too much, too often, can feel less like a blessing and more like a heavy obligation to continually express gratitude and reciprocate the affection at an unsustainable level. This makes the simple act of receiving complicated and stressful. Second, it can inadvertently diminish the emotional depth of the connection. If every time a difficult subject arises, it is met with a gift, the receiver learns to expect the material distraction. They may stop seeking genuine emotional connection or feel that the giver is incapable of providing anything but a material fix. The spending becomes a wall between two people, preventing them from meeting each other on a simpler, more vulnerable human level. A relationship is healthiest when the power dynamic is balanced. When one person consistently uses money to manage the emotions or expectations of the other, the financial imbalance often creates a relational power imbalance. The person spending holds a silent, transactional control, and the person receiving can start to feel indebted, beholden, or subtly manipulated. The most elegant and balanced relationships thrive on a mutual exchange of care that is non-monetary. Shared responsibilities, deep listening, thoughtful presence, and unwavering respect. When these are the currencies, the power remains equal, and the relationship feels safe and free. Reclaiming your intrinsic worth. The solution to the hidden costs of proving affection is to deliberately and gently shift your belief system from "I am loved because of what I give" to "I am loved because of who I am." This requires a commitment to self-acceptance and self-trust. It means looking directly at the insecurity that drives the overspending and addressing it with compassion. You must recognize that a partner who genuinely loves you does not need constant, expensive proof. They simply need you, present, honest, and whole. Start small with intentional non-spending. The next time you feel the urgent impulse to buy something for your partner to prove your love or to smooth over a rough patch, pause. Instead of reaching for your wallet, reach for a notebook or your phone. Write down the feeling that drove the impulse: fear of rejection, guilt over time spent apart, anxiety about a future discussion. Then consciously choose an equitable, non-monetary gesture to address the feeling. If the impulse was driven by guilt, write a thoughtful, simple note expressing appreciation for your partner's patience. If it was driven by the desire to smooth over a conflict, request a time to sit down and discuss the issue calmly and fairly. If it was driven by fear of not being enough, simply ask for quality time, a walk, a quiet evening, and focus entirely on listening to them and sharing your own day without any need for external entertainment. Every time you choose presence over purchase, you are gently recalibrating the scale. You are sending a clear, balancing message to your own heart and to your partner. Our connection is strong enough to stand on its own. A life lived in true balance is one where your financial choices are a reflection of your stability, not a frantic reaction to your emotional anxieties. You are worthy of love, not for what you can spend, but for the graceful and true human being that you are. Allow your relationships to be nourished by your authentic self, and watch as the hidden costs dissolve, leaving behind only the pure, light joy of true partnership. Chapter 3. Love Without a Price Tag. We have explored the heavy cost of using money to replace connection and the emotional toll of proving affection. Now, it is time to turn our gaze toward a lighter, more elegant truth. What truly makes relationships thrive is not luxury, but presence, kindness, and respect. This is the core of loving without a price tag. It is the realization that the richest relationships are not the most expensive. They are the most intentional. A relationship's strength is measured by the quality of its intimacy, not the quantity of its expenditures. Intimacy, in its truest form, means intimacy. It is the safety you create for one another to be fully seen, flaws and all, without needing a beautiful backdrop or an expensive buffer. This chapter is about learning to nurture that profound intimacy and joy without turning your wallet into the centerpiece of your love story. The goal is to shift the focus from the event, the elaborate date, the holiday, to the experience, the quality of the shared time, the depth of the conversation, the simple comfort of mutual presence. This shift restores balance by placing the emphasis back on the non-material virtues that are always sustainable and always priceless. The power of underrated gestures. In the rush to show love with big, noticeable gestures, we often overlook the quiet, underrated moments that truly build the foundation of connection. These are the small, daily acts of grace that say, "I see you, and I care about your comfort and your peace." Think of it this way: 1,000 small, consistent acts of kindness create a far more durable, beautiful mosaic than one giant, expensive masterpiece. The masterpiece might generate a temporary spike of excitement, but the daily mosaic creates enduring trust. What are these underrated gestures? They are the things that require thought and effort, not money. It might be noticing that your partner has had a difficult week and silently taking over a chore they normally handle, not to be paid back, but simply to ease their burden. It might be sending a text message during the day that refers to an inside joke or a shared memory, reminding them of your shared history and warmth. It might be the deliberate, unhurried act of listening to their story about their day without interrupting, offering advice, or checking your phone. These gestures are powerful because they demonstrate mindfulness. They show that you are paying attention to the small details of their life and prioritizing their comfort. They are acts of service and kindness that are perfectly equitable and sustainable. The cost of a bouquet of flowers is easily tallied, but the value of a partner remembering how you like your coffee every morning and having it ready for you is immeasurable. The latter is an investment in intimacy and sustained, daily joy, a feeling that money simply cannot replicate. Cultivating joy through shared creation. One of the deepest forms of human connection comes not from consuming together, but from creating together. When you shift your energy from buying entertainment to co-creating an experience, you invest directly in the richness of your shared life without draining your funds. This requires a subtle but important mindset shift. Instead of asking, "Where can we go that is impressive?" you ask, "What can we build, learn, or experience together that feeds our souls?" Shared creation doesn't have to be a grand project. It can be found in the kitchen, in the garden, or in the planning of a simple gathering. The act of collaborative effort forces you to communicate, to compromise, to navigate small challenges, and to celebrate a shared result. This is the stuff of genuine partnership, the beautiful dance of working side by side toward a common, joyful goal. Perhaps you spend a Saturday afternoon rearranging the living room to create a more harmonious, balanced space. Perhaps you start a weekly ritual of choosing a new recipe to master together, accepting the mess and the learning curve as part of the fun. Perhaps you decide to volunteer your time together for a cause you both believe in, channeling your collective energy into giving back rather than simply acquiring. These acts carry no price tag, but they forge a powerful, indelible bond. The memories created while struggling and laughing over a badly folded sheet of pastry, or the quiet pride of contributing to your community, are far more valuable than the fleeting pleasure of an expensive meal you didn't have to prepare. The joy is rooted in the shared investment of self, not the financial investment. The art of intentional presence. The single most valuable, non-monetary gift you can give your partner is your intentional presence. In a world full of distractions, notifications, deadlines, and screens, to give someone your full, unfragmented attention is a radical act of love and respect. This is where the concept of balance becomes a daily practice. It means setting clear, kind boundaries around your time together. It means putting your phone away when you are engaged in conversation. It means looking into your partner's eyes when they are speaking, truly absorbing the nuances of their expression and the meaning behind their words. Intentional presence is also about being fully present for the unglamorous moments. It's the comfort of quiet companionship while running errands. It's the shared silence at the end of a long day. These moments are the emotional lifeblood of a long-term relationship. The lack of presence often leads to the overspending impulse. If we feel disconnected, we often panic and try to bridge the gap with a material object. But the emotional void can only be filled with genuine attention. Try this. Dedicate 20 minutes of truly uninterrupted time each day, a practice I call the Golden 20. During this time, there is no agenda other than connection. Ask open-ended questions. Share a reflective thought. Simply sit in peaceful, affirming silence. This costs nothing, but it consistently refills the emotional reservoir, making the urge to spend unnecessarily to feel close simply disappear. When you are truly present, you realize that connection is the reward, not the appetizer for a bigger expense. Defining equity through effort, not dollars. A balanced relationship thrives on a sense of equity. However, equity does not mean everything must be 50-50. It means the effort, care, and attention provided by each person should be fair and proportional to their current capacity and unique contributions. In a relationship where spending is the default measure of love, the person who earns more money can often feel the pressure to always pay more, and the person who earns less can feel indebted or constantly trying to prove their value in non-monetary ways. This is inherently imbalanced and introduces subtle transactional energy. To find balance, we must recognize the full range of contributions that enrich a shared life, many of which are non-financial. This includes emotional labor, the effort of managing feelings, organizing social life, and maintaining relational harmony. It includes practical labor, the time spent on chores, maintenance, and errands. And it includes financial contribution. A relationship is healthiest when both partners can look at the full picture and honestly say, "We are both putting in an equitable effort to make this life beautiful, stable, and joyful." When you acknowledge and value the non-monetary effort of your partner, their patience, their emotional support, their organization skills, you automatically reduce the pressure on them or yourself to compensate with cash. You are essentially saying, your care is valuable, your time is valuable, your spirit is valuable. This acknowledgement is the ultimate act of relational grace. It ensures that the love you share is rooted in a deep, mutual respect for the whole person, not just their income or their bank account. The love that lasts is the love that is freely given, nourished by attention, sustained by kindness, and fortified by mutual respect. It is a love that understands its own worth has no material equivalent. Your task now is to focus on what you can give that is sustainable, authentic, and truly from your heart, allowing the quality of your presence to speak louder than any price tag ever could. Allow your connection to be its own, most beautiful reward. Chapter 4. Finding the balance between giving and keeping. Generosity is one of the most beautiful human qualities. It is the spontaneous overflow of a full heart, a willingness to share resources, time, or energy simply for the sake of seeing another person happy. When we give authentically, it is light, joyful, and completely enriching for everyone involved. It is an act of pure relational grace. However, like any powerful force, generosity must be channeled with wisdom and care. If the act of giving is not rooted in a secure, stable, and self-honoring place, it ceases to be a gift and becomes a sacrifice. And a continuous sacrifice is, by its nature, an act of imbalance. This chapter explores the delicate, vital point of equilibrium between giving freely and keeping enough for yourself. This is not about being stingy. It is about being sustainable. True balance means understanding that your own financial and emotional well-being is the foundation that supports all your giving. If that foundation is drained, the entire structure of the relationship, no matter how lovingly built, will inevitably begin to tilt. The fine line between generosity and overgiving. The difference between true generosity and compulsive overgiving is subtle but profound. It can be found not in the size of the gift, but in the feeling that motivates it. Generosity comes from a place of abundance. It asks, "What can I joyfully share from what I have an excess of?" It is an open hand. It is given without expectation of return. It feels light in the chest. Overgiving comes from a place of fear or scarcity. It asks, What must I give up or sacrifice to earn or maintain this connection? It is a closed fist, tightly clutching a demand for validation. It feels heavy, stressful, and often leads to the silent debt of resentment. When we overgive, especially financially, we are often treating our resources as a bottomless well, when in reality they are a finite account. The well can be refilled, but only through deliberate effort and time. If you drain it completely in a rush of well-intentioned but ultimately excessive spending, you are setting yourself up for burnout, anxiety, and a feeling of being continually depleted. This dynamic is inherently unfair, and an imbalanced relationship can never be truly harmonious. The moment you are giving to the point of personal pain, whether that pain is financial stress, lost savings, or emotional exhaustion, you are no longer serving the relationship. You are simply subsidizing it, and that is a transactional model that cannot withstand the test of time. The necessity of financial boundaries. To find a sustainable balance in giving, you must first establish firm, kind, and clearly articulated financial boundaries. Think of boundaries not as barriers that push people away, but as fences that define your property. They show exactly where your stable ground ends and where your giving can safely begin. Many people hesitate to set financial limits in a relationship because they fear they will appear cold, unloving, or unromantic. However, the exact opposite is true. Financial clarity is an act of love. It shows that you value the partnership enough to protect its long-term stability. A good, balanced boundary sounds like this. I want to be able to give to you with genuine joy for many years to come. To make sure I can do that, and to protect our future, I have decided to set aside this specific amount for saving and stability each month. Everything beyond that amount is available for joint spending, unexpected gifts, and shared experiences. This approach is beautiful because it frames the boundary not as a limitation on the partner, but as a commitment to the shared future. It transforms the conversation from one of scarcity to one of collective planning and abundance. When you operate without boundaries, your financial life becomes reactive. You respond to every spontaneous urge, every perceived need, and every external pressure. When you operate with boundaries, your spending becomes intentional and thoughtful. It is a direct reflection of your long-term values, allowing you to give freely without ever experiencing the dizzying fear of depletion. The power of keeping your cup full. The concept of balance fundamentally requires two things to be equally weighted. When it comes to giving and keeping, the keeping side of the scale must be dedicated to self-nurturing. You must fill your own cup first. This is a concept of ethical self-regard. When your cup is full, your giving is not a burden. It is an effortless spillover. It is the difference between scraping together change to buy a small item and cheerfully selecting a beautiful gift from a place of comfort. Keeping for yourself means several things. Financial keeping. This is saving and investing in your own stability and future peace. This money is untouchable and dedicated to creating a sense of financial security that benefits both you and the relationship, as an anxious partner cannot be fully present. Emotional keeping. This involves setting limits on your emotional labor. It means having the clarity to say, I need 20 minutes of quiet time after work before I can fully engage in this conversation. Timekeeping. This is the sacred reservation of time for your own renewal, hobbies, solitude, or activities that replenish your spirit. When you regularly neglect your own needs, your generous acts eventually carry an invisible emotional price tag. The suppressed need for renewal will leak out as passive aggression, moodiness, or resentment toward the partner who you feel is demanding too much. A balanced relationship thrives on two whole people coming together, not two halves trying to complete each other. Your commitment to keeping yourself whole and stable is perhaps the greatest gift of sustained generosity you can offer your partner. You are giving them a calm, centered, and financially secure version of yourself. The dignity of receiving. Completing the loop. Balance in giving is not solely determined by the giver. It is also profoundly influenced by the receiver. For the act of giving to be truly generous and complete, it must be met with an equally graceful act of receiving. This is often where the energy flow in relationships gets blocked. A giver, motivated by love, offers a gesture. A receiver, perhaps feeling awkward or unworthy, dismisses the gift, minimizes its value, or attempts to instantly reciprocate with something of greater value. When the receiver cannot accept the gift, whether it's a compliment, a thoughtful deed, or a material item, with simple gratitude and grace, they essentially reject the energy of the giver. They prevent the loop of positive exchange from closing. This forces the giver to try harder, give more, and potentially spend more in the future, just to get the simple satisfaction of having their effort genuinely accepted. Learning to receive is an act of humility and fairness. It acknowledges the giver's good intentions and affirms their value in the relationship. When you receive with dignity, you are giving the giver the gift of being affirmed, loved, and seen. A balanced response to a gift is simple. One, genuine verbal gratitude. That was so thoughtful, thank you. It makes me feel seen. 2, affirmation of the good feeling. I really appreciate the time and effort you put into this. 3. No immediate need to reciprocate or minimize. Simply allow the positive energy to settle. By mastering the art of receiving, you help keep the scale of generosity perfectly calibrated. You allow the relationship to thrive on a gentle, mutual flow, rather than an intense, one-sided push, making sustainable choices together. The most elegant way to ensure balance between giving and keeping is through mutual agreement and transparent conversation. Money decisions should not be unilateral, even if one person earns significantly more. They must be decisions made for the health of the shared entity, the partnership itself. A sustainable relationship embraces the philosophy of equitable exchange, which is flexible and always seeking fairness. This goes beyond the rigid 50-50 split. Perhaps one partner contributes 70% of the income due to a higher salary. Equitable exchange suggests that the other partner might contribute more in time and effort, managing the home, handling logistics, or providing a greater share of the emotional support. The distribution of money, time, and labor should be acknowledged and respected as equally valuable forms of contribution. This requires you to sit down and ask compassionate, balanced questions like, what are our shared spending priorities, and what is our individual money we keep for personal joy and stability? How can we structure our finances so that both of us feel safe, regardless of what our income is? What are 3 non-monetary ways we can both commit to giving to each other this week? Examples: uninterrupted attention, taking on a burden, deep listening. By treating your shared resources, money, time, and emotional energy, as a joint account that must be maintained and respected by both of you, you move from the precarious position of overgiving to the grounded reality of shared stewardship. The most beautiful generosity is the kind that you can maintain effortlessly for a lifetime. It is a slow, steady flow, not a sudden, dramatic flood. Commit to the wisdom of keeping enough for yourself so that every time you choose to give, it comes from a place of deep, undeniable joy. This graceful balance is the foundation of enduring love and profound financial peace. Chapter 5. Recognizing overspending triggers in love. Romantic dinners, surprise gifts, exotic vacations. These are the beautiful, sparkling moments that make up the highlight reel of a relationship. They are meant to be sources of joy and connection. But for those of us trying to find financial balance, these very occasions can easily spiral into sources of stress, guilt, and overspending. This chapter is about shining a light on those moments. We need to identify the specific emotional and circumstantial triggers that cause us to lose our financial center within the context of love. A trigger isn't just an event. It's the internal feeling or external pressure that prompts a reactive decision to spend, rather than a proactive choice rooted in balance. When you recognize your unique spending triggers, you regain control. You move from being a passenger in your financial life to being the thoughtful, graceful pilot. The goal is to separate the genuine impulse of love from the anxious impulse of a trigger, allowing you to enjoy romance without the silent sting of financial regret. The performance pressure trigger. One of the most potent triggers in modern relationships is performance pressure. This pressure is twofold, external and internal. The external pressure. We are constantly bombarded by images of what a successful or romantic relationship should look like. Social media, movies, and even well-meaning friends set a high, often unrealistic, financial standard for date nights, anniversaries, and holidays. We feel a deep, social obligation to perform love at a certain price point. The trigger here is the fear of being seen as less devoted or less romantic than others. The internal pressure. This is the insecurity we explored earlier, where we feel that our love is only valid if it meets a high material standard. If you grew up with a scarcity mindset around love, or if your parents expressed affection primarily through gifts, you may feel an intense internal need to overdeliver financially. The trigger is any important milestone, a birthday, a Valentine's Day, that demands a costly public display. To neutralize this performance pressure, you must consciously and gracefully reject the script. You need to define romance and success on your own terms as a couple, not society's. Next time an anniversary approaches, instead of immediately looking at expensive resorts or designer items, pause. Sit with your partner and ask a balanced, centering question. How can we make this occasion feel genuinely special and connected, in a way that is also fair to our long-term financial peace? The answer will almost always lead to a thoughtful experience that prioritizes quality time over quality expenditure. The guilt and compensation trigger. The guilt trigger is a pervasive and powerful force in overspending. It occurs when a partner feels they have fallen short in a non-monetary area and tries to quickly compensate with money. Common scenarios include guilt over time. I've been working late all week and haven't seen the kids, so I'll buy them that expensive toy they wanted. Guilt over conflict. We had a bad argument and I feel terrible, so I'll surprise my partner with an expensive gift to apologize and make everything okay. Guilt over unmet needs. I keep forgetting to do that chore task, so I'll pay for a professional service to fix the problem and show I still care. In these moments, the emotional discomfort, the guilt, is the trigger. Overspending becomes the quick fix to quiet the guilt. It provides an immediate, tangible proof of care, without requiring the hard work of genuine apology, time management, or behavioral change. The hidden danger here is that the quick fix becomes a habit. You train yourself to believe that emotional debt can be repaid with financial currency. To break this pattern, you need to replace the spending impulse with an equitable emotional response. The next time guilt strikes, force yourself to make a non-monetary effort that directly addresses the root cause. If you're guilty about lack of time, schedule non-negotiable, focused time, even if it's only 30 minutes, and stick to it. If you're guilty about an argument, offer a sincere, specific apology, and commit to the effort of active listening and repair, not a purchase. If you're guilty about an undone task, do the task immediately or sit down with your partner to create a fair, balanced chore agreement. This rebalancing of effort shows a commitment to the relationship's core health, proving that your love is rooted in consistency and responsibility, not just cash flow. The scarcity and fear of missing out, FOMO trigger. Many overspending decisions are driven not by an immediate need, but by a deeper fear of scarcity or the anxiety of missing out. This trigger is particularly subtle because it often masquerades as good planning or thoughtful generosity. Scarcity thinking. This trigger happens when a good deal, a limited-time sale, or an early bird opportunity surfaces, and you feel compelled to buy it now, even if you don't need it, because you fear the price will never be this good again. The fear of missing a good price overrides the wisdom of conserving your capital. Relational FOMO. This occurs when a partner or friend mentions an expensive, exclusive experience they are planning, a concert, a trip, a dinner, and you feel an immediate, anxious need to join or replicate it. The fear of being left out of the shared experience, or of disappointing your partner, drives the decision to spend money you don't have or shouldn't spend. These triggers disrupt your internal balance by focusing your energy on what is missing rather than what you already have. The graceful defense against scarcity and FOMO is a powerful reliance on your budget and your values. Your financial plan should be your anchor. If an opportunity, no matter how good, falls outside your defined spending boundaries, you must practice the elegant art of saying no to maintain your peace. Remember that true abundance is not defined by having every possible experience, but by having a calm, secure relationship with your money. Choosing financial stability over temporary excitement is the ultimate act of self-respect and the greatest long-term gift to your relationship. The immediate gratification trigger. This is the simplest, most human trigger, the powerful desire for immediate gratification. Our brains are wired to prioritize pleasure now over security later. When we feel stress, boredom, or a momentary dip in emotional connection, a purchase offers a quick, reliable hit of dopamine and distraction. In a relationship context, this often manifests as spontaneous, large purchases when an emotion arises. We're both tired and bored, let's book that flight tonight. Or I feel stressed about work, let's go buy that expensive new gadget we don't need. The immediate gratification trigger bypasses the balanced, thoughtful part of your mind. It treats spending as an impulsive emotional regulation tool. To counter this, you need to introduce an intentional pause between the trigger and the action. This pause is where wisdom and balance live. Implement the 48-hour rule for any non-essential purchase above a defined amount. When the urge strikes, write the item or idea down and commit to waiting 2 full days before revisiting the decision. During the waiting period, practice a non-monetary form of gratification instead. Go for a walk together. Listen to music. Journal about the feeling that drove the impulse. Often, by the time the 48 hours have passed, the emotional intensity has faded, and the impulsive urge to spend has dissolved. This practice retrains your brain to associate emotional regulation not with a financial transaction, but with a calm, centered, non-monetary action. This is the pathway to true, lasting peace in your financial and relational life. Recognizing your triggers is the first, essential step toward mastery. It requires looking at your own behavior with honesty, but without judgment. Every trigger you disarm is a step toward a more secure, more harmonious, and more authentically joyful life with your partner. A life where love is the spontaneous joy, not the expensive performance. Chapter 6. Building Trust Beyond Money. In many relationships, money inadvertently becomes a test. We subconsciously use financial disclosures, spending habits, and generosity as metrics to gauge our partner's reliability, stability, and commitment. This creates an enormous unfair pressure on money itself. When money is the basis of trust, the relationship becomes fragile because finances, by their nature, are always subject to change, to market shifts, job losses, or unexpected expenses. True, enduring trust is not built on receipts or bank statements. It is built on consistency, honesty, and unwavering respect. When you build your foundation here, money gracefully moves from being a test of love to simply being a practical tool for living. This chapter is about strengthening your relational foundations so deeply that your trust remains secure, regardless of the fluctuating balance of your joint bank account. This shift moves the relationship into a more profound state of equilibrium. It honors the full human being you have chosen to love, acknowledging that their worth and commitment are far richer and more complex than any financial figure could ever represent. Consistency, the daily architecture of trust. The single most powerful builder of trust that costs absolutely nothing is consistency. Consistency is the quiet, reliable rhythm of a relationship that makes both partners feel safe, stable, and secure. It is the predictable, gentle assurance that your partner is who they say they are, day in and day out. Consistency is not about grand gestures. It's about small, reliable actions. It is the dependable, everyday demonstration of your values. Think of consistency in these key, non-monetary areas. 1. Emotional consistency. Do you react to minor stress with calm and reason, or do you have dramatic, unpredictable swings? A partner who is emotionally reliable creates a safe harbor. 2. Verbal consistency. Do you follow through on the small promises you make? If you say you will call at a certain time, do you? If you commit to a chore, do you complete it? Honoring the small verbal contracts builds confidence in your ability to honor the big ones. 3. Presence consistency. Are you reliable in your attention? When you are with your partner, are you truly with them, or are you distracted by devices and worries? Dependable presence says, "You are my priority." When you provide this kind of steady, predictable foundation, the need to use money as a proof of commitment diminishes entirely. Your partner trusts your character more than your cash. They know that even if financial storms hit, your core reliability, your emotional availability, and your integrity will remain unchanged. A relationship defined by this kind of consistency is inherently balanced. It moves forward with a steady, peaceful momentum, free from the jarring stops and starts that erode trust. Honesty, the foundation of shared reality. Trust cannot coexist with hidden information or intentional ambiguity, especially concerning finances. Honesty about money isn't just a moral imperative. It is the essential ingredient for creating a shared reality in a partnership. When one partner is secretly overspending, hiding debt, or concealing savings, they are not just dealing with money. They are creating a parallel reality separate from their partner. This deception, no matter how well-intentioned or small, creates an imbalance rooted in fear. The fear of judgment, the fear of conflict, or the fear of disappointment. A balanced financial life together requires total transparency. This means being honest about both your current situation and your future anxieties. It is not enough to simply share bank account access. You must share the full, vulnerable truth of how you feel about money. Honest disclosure. Lay all the cards on the table: debt, income, assets, and liabilities. There is enormous power in acknowledging the reality, no matter how messy it is. Honest anxiety. If you are worried about a large purchase, or if you feel stress about a savings goal, Communicate that fear with compassion, rather than masking it with silence or false enthusiasm. I love the idea of this vacation, but it's making me anxious about our retirement goal. Can we talk about a more balanced option? Honest accountability. If you make a spending mistake, own it immediately and clearly. Acknowledging a misstep with calm integrity strengthens trust far more than trying to cover it up with more spending. Honesty transforms money from a source of secretive power into a shared problem to solve. By committing to a transparent, shared reality, you affirm that you are truly a team, capable of navigating any financial complexity together with grace and fairness. Respect. Honoring individual financial journeys. A crucial component of building trust beyond money is respecting your partner's individual financial journey and relationship with money. No two people come into a relationship with the same financial mindset. Their values, fears, and spending habits are deeply rooted in their personal history. True respect means avoiding financial shaming, judgment, or the imposition of your own views as the absolute right way to handle money. It means embracing an attitude of compassionate curiosity. If your partner has a different approach to saving, spending, or risk, don't immediately label it as wrong or irresponsible. Instead, approach it with a balanced question. I notice that you prioritize X more than I do. Can you help me understand why that value is so important to you? Respect also requires honoring individual financial autonomy. Even in a fully merged financial life, each partner must have a protected amount of money, an individual peace fund, that they can spend without having to justify the purchase or even disclose it to the other. This small boundary of financial independence is actually an enormous act of trust. It communicates, I trust your judgment and your character enough to allow you this freedom. Your need for privacy and personal joy is important to me. This balanced system reduces the impulse for secretive spending, as the need for autonomy is respectfully met within the structure of the partnership. When you foster this level of respect, money stops being a source of tension and starts being a reflection of your commitment to the other person's individual dignity and happiness. Redefining partnership. Trust in shared vision. Ultimately, trust in a relationship must be anchored in a shared future vision that is bigger and more inspiring than any immediate financial detail. Partners who trust each other see money not as an end in itself, but as a support system for their collective goals. They trust that both people are working in good faith toward the same horizon: a stable home, meaningful work, time together, or a specific retirement goal. To strengthen this bond of shared vision, one, define your why. Move beyond how much you want to save and focus on why you want to save it. Does the money represent the freedom to travel, the peace of mind of an early retirement, the security of a home? When money is tied to a compelling, shared purpose, trust becomes trust in the shared dream itself. 2. Regular vision checks. Schedule a routine, non-critical time, maybe once a month, for a financial state of the union. This is not a time to fight or criticize. It is a time to calmly review the budget, acknowledge successes, and respectfully adjust any spending that has strayed from the shared vision. Keep the tone light, collaborative, and focused on solutions, never on blame. 3. Celebrate non-monetary wins. Consciously celebrate achievements that have nothing to do with income or spending. Celebrate a kindness shown, a personal goal achieved, or a difficult communication handled with grace. This continually reminds the relationship that the most valuable assets are the character and connection of the partners themselves. Building trust beyond money is an act of graceful elevation. It raises the relationship out of the transactional details of dollars and cents and anchors it in the enduring, sustainable virtues of character. By committing to consistency, honesty, and mutual respect, you ensure that the love you share is not merely supported by your finances, but is the unshakable foundation upon which your financial life and everything else is safely built. Chapter 7. Talking about money without killing romance. For many couples, the topic of money is the emotional equivalent of walking through a minefield. It's often fraught with tension, defensive walls, and the fear that a financial discussion will instantly kill the warmth and connection in the relationship. We dread the cold, awkward conversation, fearing it will reduce our beautiful partnership to a sterile transaction. However, the truth is that avoiding the conversation is what truly poisons the romance. Unspoken resentment, hidden debt, and unaddressed imbalances create a silent, toxic atmosphere. True, enduring romance isn't about avoidance. It's about shared vulnerability and transparent partnership. This chapter is dedicated to mastering the art of the compassionate, balanced financial discussion. We will explore how to approach money talks with warmth, care, and a clear focus on mutual prosperity, ensuring that your commitment to financial clarity strengthens your love rather than diminishing it. Setting the stage for success. The way you start a money conversation determines its tone and outcome. A financial talk should never be sprung on a partner in a moment of crisis or during a rushed, stressful time. That instantly puts both people on the defensive, making balance impossible. A compassionate, balanced conversation requires intentional planning and a gracious invitation. 1. Schedule it. Treat the money talk like any important date. Schedule it in advance. This gives both people time to prepare emotionally and mentally. Use language that is warm and inviting. Hey, I'd love to set aside an hour this weekend for us to review our goals and make sure we're on the same page. How about Saturday morning with coffee? 2. Choose the right setting. Avoid discussing money in the bedroom, in the middle of a meal, or while multitasking. Choose a neutral, comfortable space where you can sit side by side, a physically non-confrontational arrangement. This subtle detail reinforces the idea that you are a team facing an issue, not adversaries facing each other. 3. Define the goal. Start the conversation by clearly stating the intention. The goal is never to blame, criticize, or judge. The goal is clarity, peace, and mutual safety. State this aloud. My goal for this talk is for both of us to feel more secure and excited about our financial future. I want us to be a stronger team. This immediately anchors the discussion in love and shared purpose. By approaching the conversation with this level of intentionality, you demonstrate that you value your partner's emotional state as much as you value your bank account. Leading with compassionate curiosity. When a challenging financial topic comes up, like debt, a difference in spending priorities, or an overspending episode, your initial response must be rooted in compassionate curiosity, not accusation. Accusation shuts down communication immediately. Curiosity opens the door to understanding. This is the principle of seeking fairness in understanding. Before you can seek a balanced solution, you must first understand the imbalance that led to the problem. Instead of saying, "Why did you spend so much on that? That was irresponsible," a statement rooted in judgment, try saying, "I noticed this expense and I'm feeling a little anxious about it. Help me understand what was happening for you when you made that choice." A question rooted in curiosity and empathy. The second approach acknowledges your own feeling of anxiety while inviting your partner to share their perspective without immediately fearing reprisal. Often, overspending is linked to a feeling, a need for comfort, a desire to belong, or a moment of stress. By asking what was happening instead of why did you do it, you move the discussion from a critique of character to an exploration of shared human vulnerability. Practice using "I feel" statements to own your own emotions without assigning blame. I feel nervous when I see our savings drop below X amount. Or, I feel respected when we stick to the budget we agreed upon. This keeps the focus on your need for security and relational harmony, not on your partner's perceived failures. The art of the warm boundary. A financial boundary is a non-negotiable limit that you set to protect your mutual peace. But you can enforce this limit with warmth and grace instead of rigidity and coldness. A common challenge is one partner wanting a major, unbudgeted purchase. The instinctive reaction is a cold, hard no. This kills romance. The balanced, warm boundary acknowledges the partner's desire while holding firm to the shared financial plan. It sounds like this. I love that you're excited about the idea of a new car. It's a great thought. Looking at our goal to pay off the house next year, I don't see how we can gracefully afford that right now. But let's look at the numbers together. How quickly could we make that happen if we adjusted our other spending? This response does three things. It affirms the partner's desire, it upholds the shared boundary, the house payoff goal, and it invites collaboration on a balanced solution. It shifts the relationship from one of denial to one of thoughtful problem-solving. A well-communicated, warm boundary is the very definition of respect. It honors the partner's feelings while protecting the integrity of the partnership's financial health. It shows that your commitment to stability is equal to your commitment to their happiness. Ensuring fair and equitable agreements. The goal of all financial talks is to arrive at agreements that feel genuinely fair and equitable to both people. A truly harmonious agreement is one that neither partner feels secretly resentful about. Remember that equity is not the same as equality. 50-50 rarely feels fair because people rarely have exactly the same income, debt load, or non-monetary contributions, like emotional labor or household management. When making an agreement, use a balanced approach that considers the full scope of contribution. Go beyond income. If one partner earns less but manages the entire household budget, pays the bills, and handles the investments, the value of that time and effort must be acknowledged as a substantial contribution. Proportional giving. If incomes are significantly different, it is often more equitable and less stressful to split joint expenses proportionally. E.g., one partner pays 65% and the other 35% rather than strictly 50-50. This is a practical act of grace that reduces financial strain on the lower earner. Review and revise. The most graceful agreements are not set in stone. They are living documents. Commit to reviewing your agreements regularly, maybe quarterly, to ensure they still feel fair and balanced given any changes in life circumstances or income. By consistently seeking fairness and acknowledging the whole contribution of each partner, you ensure that money remains a reflection of your cooperative love, not a source of divisive stress. Talking about money with compassion and care is the ultimate act of financial romance. It is the practice of vulnerability, shared vision, and deep respect that transforms a relationship into an unbreakable partnership. By prioritizing clarity and focusing on mutual security, you ensure that your love story remains rich, balanced, and beautifully free from financial fear. Chapter 8. When generosity turns into resentment. Generosity is meant to be a joyful, expansive feeling, a gift given with an open heart that creates warmth and connection. Yet, one of the most painful and common imbalances in relationships occurs when giving, especially financial giving, crosses a crucial, invisible line and begins to curdle into resentment. This unspoken frustration is the silent killer of relational harmony. Resentment happens when the emotional energy or financial output significantly outweighs the perceived return or appreciation. It is the heavy, toxic byproduct of unsustainable sacrifice. When you consistently give more than you can comfortably afford, or more than you feel is acknowledged, the scale tips violently and your inner peace is shattered. This chapter is about learning to identify the early, subtle signs of resentment, and most importantly, learning how to gracefully shift your giving toward a more balanced, joyful, and equitable expression of love. The goal is to restore the purity of generosity, ensuring that your giving is always a source of strength, not a source of pain. Identifying the early warning signs. Resentment rarely explodes without warning. It usually begins as a faint, persistent whisper of discontent. Because we often confuse self-sacrifice with true love, we ignore these early signals until they become a crisis. To re-establish balance, you must become attuned to these subtle emotional shifts. The internal warning signs of resentment often include the scorecard mentality. You find yourself mentally keeping track of who paid for what, who initiated the last gift, or who made the greater financial sacrifice. You are no longer giving freely. You are collecting data to prove your partner is indebted to you. This transactional thinking is the antithesis of love. The unspoken justification. Before every act of spending, you hear an inner voice saying, "I deserve something in return for this," or "they better appreciate this enormous expense." The act of giving is no longer pure. It is weighted with a heavy, hidden expectation. Irritation at small things. You find yourself disproportionately irritated by minor, non-financial slights from your partner. A forgotten chore, a late arrival, a careless comment. This is the energy of resentment leaking out, as you subconsciously feel that your partner is not earning the expensive investment you've made in the relationship. Avoidance of money talk. You dread financial discussions, not just because they are awkward, but because you know you are hiding a secret fear or frustration about your own sacrifices. If you recognize these signs, you must treat them as an urgent call for a recalibration. Resentment is a signal that your internal scale of fairness has been tipped. An immediate, kind action is required to bring it back to equilibrium. The power of gentle correction. Once you identify the feeling of resentment, the next step is not to lash out or abruptly stop all giving. The most balanced and effective action is gentle correction, a conscious, kind shift in your behavior and communication. Resentment usually stems from unmet needs and unexpressed boundaries. The person who is overgiving is almost always the person who struggles most to ask for what they need. Step 1. Pinpoint the pain. Ask yourself, what is the fundamental unfairness that is causing this feeling? Is it that you are consistently paying for luxury items you don't personally value? Is it that your partner is taking your financial contributions for granted and not offering non-monetary effort in return? Be specific. Step 2. Adjust the behavior, not the blame. Instead of confronting your partner with an accusation, simply adjust your spending back to a sustainable level. If you have been paying for every meal out of obligation, kindly suggest a less expensive, co-created date night at home. If you have been sacrificing savings for impulse buys, gently state that you need to pause all non-essential spending for a month to honor your long-term goals. This quiet, consistent behavior change sends a clear, non-confrontational signal. My personal stability is essential, and our joint spending must reflect a greater sense of fairness. Step 3. Communicate the need, not the score. If you need to talk to your partner, do it from a place of vulnerability about your need for peace, not a place of anger about their perceived failures. Example: I've noticed I've been feeling stressed and anxious lately. I realize it's because I've been spending beyond what feels comfortable to me, and I need to pull back a bit to get back to my own center. This isn't about you. It's about me finding my balance. Can we look together at a spending plan that feels more secure for both of us? This language frames the adjustment as an act of self-care and relational responsibility, rather than an angry withdrawal of affection. It invites collaboration, which is the heart of a balanced partnership, restoring equity through non-monetary exchange. One of the deepest roots of resentment is the feeling that a financial contribution is not being matched by an equitable non-monetary contribution from the partner. This is a profound imbalance in the exchange of care. To solve this, you must broaden the definition of value within your relationship. When one partner is financially shouldering a greater burden, the relationship requires the other partner to step up their contribution in other, equally vital areas to maintain harmony. This restored equity can take many forms. Time and service. If one partner covers the mortgage, the other might take on the entirety of household management, childcare logistics, or home maintenance, effectively freeing up the first partner's time for work and rest. Emotional labor. One partner might commit to carrying the weight of emotional support, actively listening, managing family communications, and planning thoughtful, low-cost connection activities. This reduces the mental fatigue of the high earner-spender. Administrative contribution. Organizing the bills, tracking the investments, and researching the best financial products are all valuable, time-intensive contributions that are not easily tallied in dollars but are essential to stability. The key is for both partners to acknowledge and respect the value of these diverse contributions. Sit down and create a fairness chart where you list the primary responsibilities and contributions of each person: financial, emotional, and practical. When you can visually see that the sum of all efforts is close to equal, the resentment that often attaches itself to financial imbalance begins to dissolve. The purity of joyful giving. The ultimate goal is to return to a place where every act of generosity feels pure and joyful. When giving leads to resentment, it means the act was corrupted by underlying fear or expectation. To practice joyful giving, 1. Define your true giving capacity. Determine a precise, non-negotiable amount of money you can spend on gifts, dates, or surprises each month without causing stress or sacrificing your savings goals. This is your joyful giving fund. 2. Give only from the fund. Commit to never spending beyond that self-imposed, sustainable limit. When the money is gone, the giving stops for the month, and you shift to non-monetary acts of affection. This protects your core stability while allowing for spontaneous warmth. 3. Release the outcome. When you give from this fund, consciously release any expectation of a particular reaction, level of thanks, or immediate reciprocation. The gift is the act itself. Its value is determined by the joy of the giving, not the response of the receiving. This balanced approach transforms generosity from a source of stress into a peaceful ritual. It honors the principle that a sustainable heart is a loving heart. By identifying and correcting the subtle tilt toward resentment, you ensure that your relationships are nourished by genuine care and mutual respect, allowing the elegant harmony of true love to thrive. Chapter 9. Love Languages That Cost Nothing. We've established that the deepest love is rooted in presence, respect, and emotional integrity, not in financial outlay. Yet, we still have a profound human need to express our affection in ways that are tangible, felt, and clearly understood by our partners. This is the heart of love languages, the unique ways we both give and receive emotional connection. The beautiful truth is that the most sustainable, expressive, and emotionally rich forms of affection are those that require an investment of self, not of wallet. They demand your attention, your time, and your intentional effort. This chapter is a guide to mastering the art of the cost-free expression of love, ensuring that your connection stays rich and abundant while your finances remain stable and secure. This is the elegant solution to overspending, replacing monetary gestures with mindful actions. When you focus on these non-financial expressions, you naturally restore balance, honoring both your partner's need for connection and your shared need for financial peace. The power of words of affirmation. One of the most direct and zero-cost ways to deposit pure joy into your relationship is through the thoughtful use of words of affirmation. This isn't just saying, "I love you." It's about expressing genuine, specific appreciation for who your partner is and what they do. In a relationship built on balance, words are used as a tool to affirm and elevate your partner's unique contributions, both large and small. They counteract the subtle erosion that daily life can inflict on self-esteem. The art of specificity, instead of a generic compliment, offer a specific, observed piece of praise. For example, instead of, "Thanks for helping out," say, "Thank you for taking the time to organize the kitchen this evening. That was incredibly thoughtful and makes our whole space feel more peaceful. I really appreciate your effort." Instead of, "You look nice," say, "That color truly brings out the warmth in your eyes. It always makes me smile when you wear it." Specific affirmation shows you are paying attention. It demonstrates that you see the effort they put into the relationship, their work, or their personal life. This is the deepest form of respect. This simple, cost-free practice requires only your focused attention and a moment of articulation. It has a priceless return. It makes your partner feel seen, validated, and valued, emotions that no expensive gift can reliably generate. It's the simplest way to inject warmth back into the daily rhythm without touching your budget. Quality time, the currency of undivided attention. Overspending often serves as a substitute for quality time. We feel we must do something expensive to make the time together count. But the essence of quality time is not the activity. It is the intentional presence you bring to the moment. Quality time is giving your partner the gift of undivided focus. This means more than just being in the same room. It means actively removing the distractions that constantly pull your attention away: your phone, your mental to-do list, the passive television. To practice cost-free quality time, one, schedule a digital sunset. Establish a regular time, say after dinner, when all screens are put away. This creates a dedicated, sacred pocket of connection time. 2. The two-question rule. Initiate conversation by asking two intentional, open-ended questions about their inner world or their day, followed by a commitment to deep listening. Avoid interrupting or immediately offering solutions. Simply listen to understand. 3. Shared silence. Practice the comfort of simply being together. Read side by side or sit quietly on the porch. The beauty of a mature, balanced love is the ability to find profound connection in comfortable silence. This indicates that your bond is so secure it doesn't need constant entertainment or verbal stimulation. An hour of fully present, cost-free conversation builds a deeper, more resilient foundation of trust than a weekend spent distracted at an expensive resort. The investment is purely in attention, which is truly the rarest commodity of modern life. Acts of service, the fairness of shared burden. Acts of service are expressions of love that involve taking action to ease your partner's burdens. In the context of a balanced, non-overspending relationship, these acts are critical for establishing equity and fairness in the partnership. Resentment often arises when one person feels they are carrying an unbalanced load of chores, emotional labor, or administrative tasks. Cost-free acts of service directly address this imbalance. These acts are most effective when they are unsolicited, done without being asked, showing you are proactively tuned into your partner's needs and the needs of the household. Targeted. Directed at the chore or task your partner most dislikes or finds most stressful. Consistent. Not a one-time heroic effort, but a reliable, steady contribution to the household's operational harmony. This might mean taking over the grocery shopping for the month, dealing with the pile of mail, or handling the unpleasant customer service call. These are not glamorous tasks, but they are priceless reductions of stress. When you perform an act of service, you are saying, I value your time and your energy as much as I value my own. I want to contribute to the fairness and ease of our shared life. This is a powerful, non-monetary investment that fosters gratitude and deepens the sense of being a respected team. Physical touch, the comfort of simple connection. Physical touch is an essential, fundamental human need that requires no budget whatsoever. It is a powerful regulator of stress, a dispenser of comfort, and a constant, non-verbal affirmation of connection. In the dance of balance, physical touch acts as a quiet, daily recentering mechanism. It quickly and effectively restores emotional equilibrium after a moment of stress or distance. This goes beyond intimacy. It is the simple, affectionate connection woven into the fabric of your day. A hand on the shoulder during a difficult conversation. A brief, warm embrace when coming home or leaving. Sitting close on the couch without speaking, allowing your bodies to simply share space. Holding hands while walking. These small, easy gestures maintain an unbroken thread of emotional closeness. They prevent the subtle emotional distance from creeping in, which often triggers the impulse to overspend as a way to buy that closeness back. When you are regularly and physically connected, your emotional reservoir stays full, and the need for expensive gestures becomes minimal. By focusing your expression of love on these 5 non-monetary languages, words of affirmation, quality time, acts of service, and physical touch, and the 5th, which is receiving gifts, which we deliberately replace here with intentional presence to maintain the cost-free focus. You build a relationship that is financially sound and emotionally abundant. You replace the fleeting thrill of a purchase with the enduring richness of authentic, intentional connection. This is love without a price tag, deeply felt, perfectly sustainable, and truly elegant. Chapter 10. Creating agreements that protect both hearts and wallets. Financial boundaries are often misunderstood. We tend to view them as rigid barriers that restrict freedom, create distance, or introduce cold formality into a warm, loving relationship. However, the exact opposite is true. Well-crafted financial boundaries are actually bridges. They are clear, agreed-upon structures that keep relationships safe, secure, and thriving. They protect the heart by removing the primary source of financial anxiety and resentment. This chapter is about learning how to make loving, fair, and practical financial agreements that serve the long-term harmony of the partnership. These agreements ensure that money remains a tool for building a beautiful shared life, rather than becoming a secret test or an engine of conflict. When you define your financial lines with grace and clarity, you invest in a future where both partners feel respected, heard, and profoundly secure. The philosophy of shared stewardship. The foundation of every strong financial agreement is the concept of shared stewardship. This means both partners view their collective money and resources as belonging to a third entity, the partnership itself. You are both joint custodians, responsible for the well-being and growth of that entity. This moves the mindset away from my money versus your money and toward our shared resources. A true partnership agreement is rooted in a desire for mutual fairness and collective peace. It recognizes that neither partner is perfectly skilled or perfectly infallible with money. It's an arrangement based on realistic acknowledgement of shared goals and individual needs. Before creating any specific rules, you must establish a core philosophy together. Ask these centering questions. 1. What does financial peace look like to both of us? Is it a specific savings number, the absence of consumer debt, or the ability to give generously? Define the feeling first. 2. What is the minimum level of financial safety we both require to sleep soundly? This helps define the non-negotiable reserves or emergency funds. 3. How can we structure our finances so that both of our unique strengths are utilized and our weaknesses are gently supported? This philosophical groundwork ensures that the agreements you create are aligned with your deepest values, making them easy to honor because they feel like an extension of your love, not a limitation on your freedom. The 3 essential financial agreements. Every balanced partnership benefits from establishing clarity around 3 key areas. These agreements should be discussed and revised regularly to maintain equity. 1. The discretionary spending agreement, the no-guilt zone. Overspending often occurs in the discretionary zone, those small, non-essential purchases that accumulate into debt or erode savings. To protect your relationship from the guilt and conflict surrounding these impulse buys, establish a discretionary spending threshold. The agreement is simple. Any non-essential purchase below amount can be made by either partner without needing to consult the other. This is the no-guilt zone. It honors individual autonomy and eliminates the need for petty justifications. Conversely, the agreement must also clearly state any non-essential purchase above amount must be discussed and mutually agreed upon before purchase. This protects the relationship from financial shock. The dollar amount should be fair and proportional to your income and goals. For a couple focused on paying off debt, the amount might be $50. For a couple with significant disposable income, it might be $500. The number itself is important than the agreement to honor it. This structure balances individual freedom with collective responsibility. 2. The contribution agreement, fairness, not equality. As discussed, 50-50 splits often create imbalance because incomes and non-monetary contributions are rarely equal. The contribution agreement defines how each person contributes to the shared expenses in a way that feels sustainable and fair to both. This is where you might agree to proportional contributions, splitting expenses based on the percentage of income each person earns, or a specialization agreement. One person pays the rent mortgage. The other covers groceries/utilities/insurance. The key is that the agreement must feel balanced when you look at the whole picture of time, labor, and money. If one partner contributes less money, the agreement should acknowledge and value their increased contribution of time and effort in other critical areas, e.g., household management, emotional labor, or errands. The agreement is a loving document that reflects the holistic, equitable nature of your joint effort. 3. The individual autonomy agreement, the peace fund. To eliminate secretive spending and maintain individual dignity, every couple should create an agreement around individual, autonomous funds. This is the peace fund. The agreement states that a defined amount of money is automatically transferred to each partner's separate, individual account each month. This money is entirely theirs to save, invest, or spend on their personal needs, wants, or goals, with zero oversight or judgment from the partner. This is one of the most powerful tools for preventing relational stress related to money. It reduces the urge for deceptive spending because the need for personal financial freedom is respectfully met within the structure of the partnership. It also acts as a psychological buffer, assuring each partner that they maintain a secure, private resource, fostering a deep sense of individual peace within the union, making the agreements loving and flexible. The true elegance of these financial boundaries lies in how they are implemented. They must be handled with the same compassion and care you use in every other aspect of your love. Document the agreement, but don't weaponize it. Write down your agreements clearly and keep them in a shared, accessible place, like a single digital document. This documentation ensures clarity, but the document should be a guide to harmony, not a weapon to be deployed during conflict. Refer to it gently and collaboratively. Let's look back at our discretionary agreement to help us make this choice gracefully. Build in a review process. Commit to reviewing and adjusting your agreements at least once or twice a year, or whenever a major life change occurs, new job, new debt, new goal. A balanced agreement is dynamic, not static. By regularly checking in, you treat your agreements as a living part of your partnership, ensuring they always reflect your current reality and collective pursuit of fairness. The grace of forgiveness. Recognize that all human beings make mistakes, and boundaries will occasionally be crossed. A loving partnership views a boundary violation not as a moral failing, but as a signal that the agreement may need adjustment, or that one partner is struggling with a stressor. Approach the violation with compassionate curiosity. Seek to understand the root cause, forgive the error, and collaboratively adjust the system to prevent recurrence. By intentionally creating clear, compassionate, and fair financial agreements, you move your relationship from the emotional unpredictability of overspending to the grounded, elegant peace of shared financial stewardship. You protect your hearts and your wallets, ensuring that your love can thrive on a foundation of absolute clarity and profound security. Chapter 11. Choosing harmony over pressure. Relationships are beautiful, complex structures, and sometimes they strain under the weight of unspoken expectations. These expectations often manifest financially. The pressure to maintain a certain lifestyle, to host elaborate events, or to constantly provide luxurious experiences. When love feels like an obligation tied to spending, the joyful, free energy of the partnership is replaced by a heavy, binding anxiety. The most elegant and sustainable relationships choose harmony over pressure every single time. Harmony is a state of balanced, peaceful coexistence that arises from a deliberate decision to release the need to impress, to keep up, or to meet unrealistic standards. It is the commitment to ensuring that love feels like freedom, not a heavy financial contract. This chapter is about learning the graceful art of releasing these pressures. We will explore how to identify the forces that create strain and how to pivot, through conscious choices and kind communication, back to a state of equitable and joyful peace. Identifying the source of the strain. Before you can choose harmony, you must pinpoint the precise origin of the pressure. It's rarely the actual money. It's the fear or expectation attached to the money. This pressure can come from external, relational, or internal sources. External pressure. This is the force of cultural conditioning or social comparison. It's the feeling that your life must match the highlight reel of friends, family, or social media. For example, the pressure to have an extravagant wedding, a lavish vacation, or to enroll children in the most expensive activities simply because everyone else seems to be doing it. The core fear here is social judgment, the fear of being perceived as less successful or less devoted. Relational pressure. This comes from the partner. It often arises when one partner has a significantly different expectation for spending or lifestyle than the other. This isn't malicious. It simply reflects their background and values. If one person grew up with unlimited resources and the other with a scarcity mindset, the disparity in expectations creates tremendous strain. The core fear here is disappointment, the fear of not being able to meet your partner's needs or desires. Internal pressure. This is the pressure we place on ourselves, the drive for perfection, the need to feel like a good provider, or the compulsive need to prove our worth through material success. This is often the quietest but most insidious pressure. The core fear here is unworthiness, the belief that your love and self are not enough without the costly additions. To restore balance, you must look at the pressure point, acknowledge the fear it evokes, and then make a conscious, intentional choice to prioritize your internal and relational harmony over that external demand. The graceful art of saying no. The ability to say no to financial pressure is a hallmark of a balanced individual. However, in a loving partnership, no should never be a rigid rejection. It should be a soft boundary that reaffirms a deeper commitment to the partnership's well-being. This requires both clarity and kindness. When pressure arises, for example, a partner suggests an expense that is out of budget, your response should be an act of redirection towards shared vision, not an act of resistance. A balanced no always includes a yes. A cold no, "No, we can't afford that trip, it's too expensive," stops the conversation, creates distance. A harmonious yes and "That trip sounds absolutely wonderful and I would love to go. Yes, let's explore that as a goal." To make that happen without sacrificing our financial peace, what are two other areas we can gracefully cut back on for the next 6 months? Affirms the desire, redirects the energy toward collaborative problem-solving and shared stability. By incorporating the yes and structure, you show your partner that you are not rejecting them or their idea. You are simply protecting the agreed-upon structure of your financial life. You move the stress from a personal conflict to a joint logistical challenge. This transforms potential pressure into empowerment, as you are solving a puzzle together, cultivating an appreciation for enough. A significant portion of relational financial pressure stems from a lack of appreciation for the concept of enough. We are culturally conditioned to constantly seek the upgrade, the bigger house, the fancier car, the more exotic experience. This constant chasing of more is a profound source of imbalance. It drains resources and energy, leaving us perpetually unsatisfied. Harmony is found in the ability to gracefully acknowledge and savor the richness of your current reality. This is the practice of financial contentment. This doesn't mean becoming complacent. It means intentional gratitude for what your current money does provide. To cultivate this balance, one, stop the comparison loop. Consciously limit exposure to social media and external influences that trigger the comparison trap. Recognize that you are comparing your behind-the-scenes reality to someone else's curated performance. 2. Practice gratitude for stability. Take a moment each day to verbally acknowledge what your money provides that brings you peace. The secure roof over your head, the nutritious food, the savings that act as a safety net. This anchors your appreciation in security, not in luxury. 3. Define your true needs. Sit down with your partner and separate your needs, security, health, comfort from your wants, luxury, status, novelty. Committing to prioritizing needs first reduces the pressure to overspend on fleeting wants. When a partnership wholeheartedly embraces the idea that what they currently have is enough to build a beautiful life, the relentless pressure to acquire and spend simply falls away. The relationship itself becomes the source of abundance, not the material possessions surrounding it. Love as freedom, not obligation. The most profound choice for harmony is the commitment to ensuring that your love always feels like freedom. Financial pressure makes love feel like an obligation, a debt that must be constantly repaid with purchases and expenses. To choose freedom, you must release the impulse to control, punish, or manipulate your partner through money. Release control. Trust that your partner is operating in good faith. Step back from micromanaging their individual spending or criticizing every small purchase. Harmony requires a graceful, generous amount of trust. Release fear of vulnerability. Be willing to admit when you are financially struggling or feeling overwhelmed. A vulnerable, honest confession of strain is far more connecting than a proud, unsustainable facade of affluence. Vulnerability invites compassion, which is the cornerstone of harmony. Elevate simple joy. Intentionally structure your shared time around activities that maximize connection and minimize cost. Focus on the playful, non-monetary aspects of your relationship that initially drew you together. Laughter, shared intellectual curiosity, simple companionship. Choosing harmony means replacing the heavy "I should" of financial obligation with the light "I choose" of authentic affection. It is the conscious decision to value your shared peace and stability above all external appearances. By gracefully releasing the pressures that demand overspending, you create a space where your love can breathe, grow, and settle into a state of beautiful, sustainable equilibrium. A relationship that is rich in spirit, secure in finance, and elegantly free. Chapter 12. Love and Money in Balance. We have journeyed through the subtle complexities of merging hearts and wallets. We've identified the emotional costs of proving affection, learned to choose presents over costly gestures, and established the necessity of clear, compassionate agreements. This final chapter is not about finding a destination. It is about embracing a sustainable way of being, the continuous, graceful dance of keeping love and money in perfect, joyful balance. This enduring harmony is the reward for the intentional work we have done. It is the peace that comes from knowing your relationship is not fragile, but resilient, not transactional, but deeply, authentically connected. This is where you integrate everything: how to enjoy generosity while safeguarding stability, and how to nurture a love that is rich in spirit and secure in its financial foundation. Integration. The whole picture of wealth. True wealth in a relationship is not measured by the size of the portfolio. It is measured by the quality of the connection and the depth of the security. When love and money are in balance, you have achieved holistic prosperity. This holistic view acknowledges that your well-being is comprised of four equally vital interconnected assets. One, financial assets. Your income, savings, investments, and debt management. This is the structure of your life. Two, relational assets. Your trust, communication skills, emotional intimacy, and mutual respect. This is the support system of your life. Three, time assets. Your shared availability, quality presence, and freedom from overwork. This is the capacity for life. Four, emotional assets. Your personal resilience, capacity for joy, and freedom from anxiety. This is the inner state of your life. When you overspend, you are often attempting to boost one asset, relational, by recklessly draining another, financial. When you find balance, you ensure that every decision is a gentle investment across all four domains. A thoughtful, low-cost date, for example, is a small expenditure of financial assets, a great investment in relational and time assets, and a boost to emotional assets. This is the definition of sustainable, elegant living. Your commitment now is to treat all four of these assets with the same level of equitable care and diligent stewardship. Never allow the pursuit of one form of wealth to recklessly undermine the others. The wisdom of the long view. The impulse to overspend is almost always rooted in a need for immediate gratification, a quick hit of pleasure, or a fast fix for anxiety. Finding balance requires you to replace this reactive, short-sighted impulse with the wisdom of the long view. The long view is the elegant understanding that delaying gratification is an act of love. It is the recognition that the small sacrifices you make today, choosing a simpler date night, pausing an impulse purchase, consistently contributing to savings, are not limitations. They are foundational acts of profound generosity toward your future selves and the future stability of your partnership. Ask yourself, not just in financial decisions, but in all choices, which option is the kindest to our partnership 10 years from now? The short view says, buy the expensive item now to feel happy today. The long view says, save the money today so we can feel secure and free to pursue our deeper, shared goals tomorrow. By anchoring your choices in the security of the future, you remove the urgency of the present moment. This creates a peaceful, settled rhythm in your decision-making. This consistent, future-focused thinking is the quiet engine of enduring relational harmony. Your current generosity is expressed not in frivolous spending, but in the serious, loving commitment to shared, lasting security. The art of continuous calibration. Balance is not a fixed state that you achieve and then forget. It is a continuous, gentle process of calibration. Life is dynamic, and your financial and relational circumstances will constantly shift. A new job, a major expense, or a new phase of life will inevitably tip the scale. The mastery lies not in avoiding the tilt, but in becoming wonderfully adept at returning to center with speed, grace, and compassion. This requires two ongoing commitments, one regular, compassionate check-ins. Maintain the ritual of your planned, warm money talks. These check-ins are your opportunity to look at the financial scale and ask, where are we tilting, and how can we gently bring ourselves back to fairness? Approach this with curiosity and acceptance, never with blame. 2. Honoring the individual fulcrum. Continuously check in with your own inner state. If you feel stress, resentment, or anxiety, that is your personal scale tipping. Do not wait for a crisis. Communicate the need for a non-monetary adjustment, more rest, more quality time, less emotional labor before the internal imbalance forces a financial overspending mistake. This practice of constant, gentle adjustment is what makes your relationship resilient. It ensures that the small imbalances are never allowed to grow into large, destabilizing crises. It is the steady, quiet hum of a healthy, beautifully maintained system. Love as its own, sufficient reward. We started this journey by noting how easily love can become tied to money. The final, most liberating lesson is this. Love is the ultimate reward, and it requires no material cost to sustain it. When you choose to prioritize non-monetary expressions of love, presence, kindness, consistency, honest communication, and respect, you realize that these are the true sources of joy and longevity. These cost nothing but your intentional self, and they are inherently sustainable. Enjoy generosity. Continue to be generous, but let it flow from your joyful giving fund, a source that is pre-approved, financially healthy, and free from obligation. Let your gifts be small, thoughtful, and perfectly within your means. Safeguard stability. View your savings and financial boundaries as acts of love toward your partner. Security is the ultimate expression of care. Nurture love. Never stop investing in the non-monetary assets of your relationship. Prioritize deep listening, emotional availability, and the shared creation of simple, cherished moments. You now possess the tools to ensure that your relationship with money is one of grace and clarity, and that your relationship with your partner is one of profound, unconditional connection. You have found the balance where the heart is free from financial fear, and the wallet is protected by a loving, mutual commitment to peace. May your life together be an elegant, secure, and wonderfully rich journey, where your love is always the greatest and most valuable treasure you share.